This is David from Shepherd's Loft. Hey, good morning, Brian.
Hey,
Welcome
how you
to
doing?
fantastic. Welcome to the Shepherd's Loft Entrepreneurial Show. We love interviewing entrepreneurs, seeing what they're up to in this new age, and we just want to inspire others. And so, thank you for being on the show. And
Oh,
so,
you're
just to get
welcome. I'm
started,
excited. That's good.
So just to get started, you've been doing app development at Anderson Taylor with your team for many
Yeah.
years. I'm just guessing. I think I was trying to figure this out this morning. Did we meet like almost 20 years ago? Just di- bring us up to speed
Something
here.
like that. Something like that. Yeah, we've been hanging out together for since maybe 2000 ish, right? 2010 ish, maybe. Yep. So it's been a while. We've been doing fun things together. It's great watching you, David, and see all the things you've done over the years as well.
Okay, cool. So give us a little bit of history. I think you owned your own agency before you got into app development. So kind of tell us about that transition and why did you get into app development?
Sure. So I graduated from college with a degree in design and illustration. But before that, I was an engineering major at Stetson, going through for a business. At first business and then engineering degrees, and then got into graphic design. And one of the things I loved about it was the computers that were the Macintosh that Apple was making at the time were really starting to change the way that you could do things. And so I got into graphic design, and we started a family business with my father, and we ran an ad agency for 10 years. And then after that, right about 2000, a little bit before 2000, I left and started doing what we called back then websites that work. So what we didn't really know was that was the future of software, right? But at the time, I just hired programmers, and my first client was Mitsubishi Electric, and we also had Holox, which is a big gas producer. And they had like 30,000 pages worth of content to put up, and they didn't have like $3 million to do it. So I wrote some code, and the code actually created the pages on the fly for them. So it was pretty cool. They loved it, and we were able to get that off the ground pretty inexpensively, comparatively, maybe comparatively to $3 million, right?
Right, right, yeah.
But that was one of my first projects, and it went really well.
Cool. So
But
so when was that? When was your first apps when you got started?
probably right at 2000, yeah, year
2000.
2001, something like that, yeah. And back then we were using CGI and whatever we could get to work, whatever
Right.
code would work on a lot of Java right after that. Java was big for a while, but we had a lot of fun. Our first kind of bigger client that we did mobile apps with was BlackBerry. BlackBerry came to us, and actually through Sprint, which became one of our bigger customers, and that was a lot of fun because BlackBerry came to us, and what they wanted was they wanted us to build a mobile app on the I can't remember which device it was, but they wanted it for NCR. And NCR is a big company that does cash registers for POS systems, back then, cash registers. And so they had engineers in the field, and we were able to build a small Java-based mobile app for them, and they deployed it. And they were really all they were doing is just having the engineers log their hours. How long did you work at this, you know, at this company?
Right.
So it was fun. That was one of the first mobile apps that we ever built, and it was text only, so nothing fun to look at, but
Right.
fun to do for the client, and they loved that it actually got the job done, and people were
Right.
able to log where they were and what they did every day. So
So it started with something simple, but then over time it I think it really mushroomed into something. So then you started building Apple and Apple apps and Android apps, and
Yeah.
wasn't there just like a giant bubble
Well,
in
if you
there?
remember, first Windows came along, and we became a really big Windows developer for Windows Mobile, and everybody thought that's where, between Windows and iPhone, they thought Windows would probably win out, but of course it didn't. But I was really lucky. I got to work with the vice president of Windows Mobile, CE, Windows CE, they called it at the time. And so I'd go out back and forth to California. I think you came to California with me one time. Remember
Yeah, was that like
that?
I want to say that was in like in 2010 or something. That I don't know. That was
Yeah. And we were driving around. We rented something fun like a Camaro or something.
yeah, but I think I believe it was a Charger. So you're
Yeah.
pretty
I
sure
remember
about
you
that.
you tried to slide across the hood, remember, or something.
Yeah, they're like it's way too tall. I couldn't even get.
That was
Um,
fun. Yeah,
yeah,
but in those days we were actually we built a telecommunications system, and for a while that was really big, and we built the first mobile voice over IP system. So
mm,
what that means is like people were able to make calls on their phone like they do today with WhatsApp, FaceTime, all that. But we were one of the first companies to ever do that, and so we won some awards for it, and it was a lot of fun.
I love kind of the history of. I mean, because when you're in the moment, you really don't know where the future is. Like, we thought it was going to be Windows, right? And then it turns out to be something
Yeah,
else. And as entrepreneurs, we have to, kind of evaluate where we are and go, is this really something I want to do, or what's coming down the pipe? And so
yeah,
you've
yeah, definitely.
evolved through time with this, and
Yeah, and sometimes
which is amazing.
painfully.
Really?
We lost,
Well,
I think, about 1.25 million one year. And that was scheduled to pay a lot of our programmers, so we almost went out of business. And it's because that exact thing happened. Things changed so quickly just around 2009, 2010, and we were in the telecom business mostly,
right.
and things changed so quickly. Windows was going out quickly, and the devices that we built things for were very expensive, so it would only work on a $900 device. And so
Yeah.
there were a lot of economics involved in what we were doing. So we lost a lot of money that year, or those
Well,
2 or 3 years.
what is the favorite part of app development for you as the leader in your team? What does that look like?
Well, it's always been, to me, it's always been the ability to make something that's, to me, kind of magical, that people love to use, and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe how easy this is, and especially for people that used to do it a different way, and all of a sudden they're able to do it in a couple minutes instead of hours or days,
Right.
and that for me is one of the most fun aspects of my job, is actually turning people on to the fact that, yeah, we can take all these things that you've been doing and make them so much simpler, and save you money, save you time, but just hopefully make it fun as well.
Make more efficient. Right. Okay.
So, for
So
example, well, I've told you this before, but I'll tell you again. we we built an application on an iPad for one of the largest resellers of truck bodies in America. They're
right.
huge, huge manufacturer, and I remember we built an iPad application for them to quote their trucks. And at the time, it was taking them sometimes 2 or 3 weeks to quote a truck, because they had hundreds of different options and thousands of different accessories, and they didn't know which ones were available. And people wanted to see pictures of them, and it took forever. And
Right.
so we built a really cool iPad app for them. And when we launched it, I remember being at their trade show, and we were launching it with them, and some of the guys were like in their 70s or 80s, and they handed them the iPad app, and there's hundreds of sales guys, and they're all looking at this iPad app. And before I was even able to get up in front of everybody and present to them and show them how to start using it, they were already on it, using it, quoting trucks, and going, "Look, I just quoted a truck," you know, and uh, and that was fun. That was great.
Yeah, that is awesome. What is the so just kind of a little futuristic comparison here. So what was it like 10 years ago to design and build an app compared to today?
Yeah. Things have definitely changed now, right, with AI. And I mean, one of the biggest components and one of the things I used to love to do was design the UI, because I came from graphic design and engineering background, so it was always fun to me to actually make that UI great to look at, but fun and easy to use.
Right.
And now you can basically say to there's so many graphic design engines out there, including ChatGPT, but a lot of them that we can just say, hey, here's 2 or 3 UIs we've already built, right? And create a new version of this, and you define it, and within minutes you've got something that's really pretty good, and you just tweak it. So it's amazing. It used to take weeks, and now we can get that done really quick.
Right. Right. So it kind of flat. Well, it's really, it's increasing the timeline, but um, I was going to get into that later. So let's kind of take a pause for a second here. I just want to let people know that, so if you're looking for someone to help build your app, that's something that Anderson Taylor can do, and so they can build that app for you and host it and manage and maintain it. And here at Shepherd's Loft, if we're here in North Georgia. If you're looking for some help with marketing, we are now offering free marketing scorecards, and we can kind of evaluate what your online presence
That's right.
is.
Yeah.
And so that's out there. You can reach out to us, contact us, leave us a message in the comments, and we can help you with that. So I want to go into this next segment here of our interview and just talk about let's drill into your latest app. Let's talk about
All right.
the Executos. So tell us about
Executos.
Executos app. Yeah.
So Executos is a career builder system. So it all came about because I was working with a lot of people that were looking for jobs, and I've been very lucky, very blessed in my life. I've never had to look for a job. So I wasn't real familiar with it, but when I started working with these people and they're looking for a job, the first thing they do is build a resume, use Canva, whatever they have to do, get a resume, built, put all their information in it, collect everything, type it in, have someone use it, edit it for them, or have a lot of people look at it. And then you submit it and nothing ever happens. And so I did like a trial where I think I submitted my own resume. I created a resume, submitted it to over 50 companies, and never got one reply. And I thought, well, this is crazy. 50 resume applications, you should get something, right?
Right.
And so then I looked into it, and I don't know, you probably already know this, but most companies use ATS systems now, and ATS is kind of an AI system that scrubs the resumes and evaluates them before they even get to a real human being, right? So you're submitting your resume along with maybe 3,000 other people for that job sometimes, and nobody's ever going to look at it, right? It just goes in the it goes in the shit can. It goes in the junk pile, right?
Oh,
So I thought, well, this is a pretty big problem. So I quickly got my team together and we wrote an app that we're now calling Executos. But it's more than just building resumes. It's building your career because it learns about you, and as it learns about you, you can apply for different types of jobs. And so you put the job into the Executos system, and it already knows about you. Within seconds, it's building a resume for that job, and then it can show you what you're missing. Is say, hey, you're great for this job, but you're missing these 5 things. Maybe you forgot to tell me about them. Is there
right.
anything we could say that would fill the gaps here, here, and here? And
Right.
surprisingly, a lot of times they're like, oh, well, I do have some of those qualifications, right? So, you can work with our AI chatbot right inside the Executive system, fill in your gaps, and then it will scrub it for ATS, and it'll say, well, you're 78% likely to actually get somebody to look at your resume if you submit it like it is. And then it'll give you tips. Here's 5 things you could do to your resume to make it, even more ATS friendly, so that you're more likely to actually get a real person to see it. Of course,
Right.
once a real person sees it, you still have to get through them. But we can only go so far with software. But I think it's really cool. We're now we've launched it. So if you go to Executos, it's X. Could you help me spell it? Executos.
Executos. X. Right.
There you go. Yep.
Those.
Executos, like operating system.com. Executos.
Okay.
And so Executos is basically we built it originally for executives, right? But now we're launching it to colleges as well. So we're going to bring it into colleges, and they're going to create actual classes around it. Where people learn how to build their career. How to optimize themselves for their career, which I think. And you and I talked to this whole point before, David. Like when you go to college, you get out and at least when we went to college, you get out and you don't know how to get a career, you don't know how to get a job, right? They don't teach you to do that. They teach you everything but how to get your first job.
Right. Yeah,
So
yeah. High school and college, there's no life skills built into any
right,
of
there's
that.
like, oh,
Like,
okay, you're on your own. You
how
paid
do
all
you
this money, go do something.
you don't know anything about taxes, insurance, incorporating. You don't.
Nothing. Yeah.
You have no life skills when you come out. And like, yeah, I remember those days of trying to, I was like, oh, I dreaded it so much. I was like, I got to go update my LinkedIn. I got to go build a resume. And,
Yeah.
and I think we talked about this before. I was like, I really love the idea of this app because I was listening to a podcast about Da Vinci and how he would custom write. This is what you've done. He would
Leonardo da
custom
Vinci.
write.
That was a
Yeah,
little while back.
yeah, it was a little while ago. I didn't meet him in person,
He
but
didn't have LinkedIn, right?
he would build this resume for the job that he wanted to do. He would pitch himself, and that's what you've done. You've
Okay.
created a tool to
See,
be
the
able
world has not changed.
right. No. You need, instead of just having a generic resume that everybody's going to read the same resume, they can
Yeah, yeah,
now
yeah.
pitch themselves directly. These are my
I love it.
core benefits for getting this job.
Yep.
You're fine tuning yourself to get that job, and I believe that's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So
So, and then the next phase of this whole thing for Executos is not just career building, but also it's those gaps. How do we fill those gaps? And this is what colleges can do, right? So, this is why I'm introducing it to colleges here in University of Georgia and hopefully Georgia Tech and a couple others right away, because those gaps can be filled by colleges, right? So you're saying, well, I really want to get this job, and the Executos system says, great, but you're missing these three things, right? And you can go get certified, go take a class, get certified. And then what we're going to do with the Executos system is it's not just your word, right? People are going to be able to say, okay, I'm looking at hiring this guy. Well, let me log into Executos and see if he actually does have these, does he really have a degree here? Does he really have a certificate here? Does he really have a real person that says he can do this type of work? And so we'll actually have real world, real people certifications inside the Executive system, so we can back it up with the criteria that people are looking for.
I've been watching the Suits show again, so it's make
Mm.
sure you don't have a Mike Ross on your team, right? Like,
Right?
brilliant, but no degree, no
No,
degree.
no, okay.
Watch out for those guys. That is awesome.
I love it.
So what is I mean the app itself is so streamlined. I mean if you the standard the whole thing is just so streamlined. Is there a specific feature that you would like to highlight, or what kind of integration does it have?
Yeah, I think for me, the easiest has been every time I've tried it is just the fact that we are integrated with LinkedIn. And so when you go to fill out your first resume, the first time you do it, and it's starting to learn about you, the simplest thing is just to paste in your LinkedIn URL, and it will scrub that, and it will pretty much fill out most of what you're all about if you've got a good LinkedIn profile, and then you can
Right.
go back and talk to the chat, talk right there to our AI and say, okay, what am I missing? And it'll say what type of job you're trying to get, and then you start kind of like filling in all the gaps, and it saves it all in your profile. So your profile builds over time, and it knows more and more about you. So that's the
Right.
best part.
Well, so that's almost like a notebook LM, right? So
Yeah,
where you
exactly.
can save all your information. So your LinkedIn is
Hmm.
basically your notebook LM. You put your information in there, and it's able to
Yeah,
scrub all the information
and
out.
you could do this, right, David? You could take Canva and make up resume. You could take Notebook. You could take GPT. You could do all these things separate. We just combine them into one really nice place that you could do it all.
Right. Yeah, and then in this generating, and rewording and generating that resume for
Yeah.
you. So That is
And
super
it's not
cool.
that expensive. You only pay for it. You build your resume as long as you want for free, and you only pay for it when you want to export that resume. So um, it's pretty easy. We wanted to make it easy for and inexpensive so that people aren't. I mean, we have another version. This is so you know how I do things, right? So
Yeah, I
this
know.
is the consumer version. If you want AI to really find you a job, we build something custom for you, but it's $10,000 plus, and that's for people that, and we've done that, or we can do it. So basically, if you're a guy that's looking for a $500,000 a year job, you're not going to use Executos, but we can build something that will help get you that job too. But that's something completely different on a whole nother scale.
Right, right, right. All right, so this audience, if you find any of this information helpful to you, then like and subscribe to our channel. And also, I want to know from the audience if there's other entrepreneurs you'd like for me to interview in the industry, or in the even in the construction home industry or in technology. Let me know what you guys would like to hear. And just remember, we have a free marketing scorecard, and just visit shepherdsloft.com for that. This next section, Brian, we're going to talk about the good and the bad, right? So this is
Good, the bad, the ugly.
the good and the bad and the ugly, right? So let's talk about the technology and the security. We have all of these new toys at our disposal. Uh, but this could be dangerous. So let's talk
Yeah.
about security. I mean, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about
Yeah.
security and building apps?
Well, I talk to a lot of people, a lot at big companies. As you know, we work with Fortune 500. So I was just on the phone the other day with senior vice president of one of the largest pharmaceutical, drugstores in America. I won't say who. And we were talking a little bit about this, and the key word here is gatekeeping. A lot of what big companies do needs to be gate kept. We need a gatekeeper, and
Right.
they don't have it, right? So, um, what companies probably don't understand, right, is that anytime you type something in, or enter something in, or copy and paste it in, or even now you can just point Chat GPT at Excel spreadsheets or upload them, right? All that information that you're giving it is now in the cloud. It's in AI, right? So you've just given it maybe proprietary information, and it's not even you. It could be somebody down the line, somebody's that you don't even know is doing this. That's not even an executive suite person. He's just, oh yeah, I just thought I'd use ChatGPT and find out the answer to that. So I copied all the company's documents into it and all our clients, and now it knows about all your clients and what they buy from you and how much they spend. Might not want to do that. So, because those things are now free for anybody that's able to use AI to possibly find out about your company, and that's not good. You don't want to let those secrets out, probably. So,
Wow.
and we're working on some software right now that helps gatekeep, and that's one of the big things is it's going to limit how employees use ChatGPT and Claude and other LLMs and other systems, but um, you can't just let in a big company, especially, or any company that has proprietary information, you just can't let them do whatever they want. You're going
We
to have to
ran.
put some guardrails on it, right? Gatekeep it,
So
guardrail it.
right. So I understand the different apps. I saw a chart the other day that kind of had a simple explanation of, like, and I use Gemini. So underneath the Gemini column, it said, okay, best internal tool. Like, so if you're using Google Workspace and
Yeah,
Google Drive and stuff like that, then Gemini is really good for all of these internal things. And I've ran into quite a lot of limitations even within that. But
yeah,
and then Claude is different. It's external, and some can access the internet better than others. So there's kind of these default categories.
yeah,
But what
yeah.
you're talking about is most of them don't have a filter. Like, whatever you put in there, it goes into the consortium.
The
Like,
consortium, the
the
cloud.
consortium, like, everybody knows.
It's
So if
now
you're building
learning.
a product, for the
Yeah,
market, it's like it's always been a race, right? Who can get the product onto the marketplace fastest, right? And then there will be copycats eventually, but
Yeah.
this shortens that timeline as well. So things, not only is technology advancing, but even the race is getting faster.
Oh
Seems
yeah,
like.
prototype. We can do prototypes in weeks now. It used to take us, months. So, and a lot less expensive, of course. And the greatest thing is trying A/B testing, right? Like, you can say, okay, in the past it would take months to do this prototype. Whether it's a SaaS portal application or a mobile application that we built, or something in between, or an integration, we used to take months to do it. So we would have to just pick one way. And so one of the biggest things we used to do is sit and whiteboard. As you know, I'd sit there with people for days, and we just draw out everything they could ever build, right? Here's your wish list. And then we'd
Right, right.
circle, okay, this is the MVP. This is what we're building first. And it'll take 3
Yeah.
months or whatever, right? But now we can prototype 2 or 3 different versions of that, with different options. And then you go out to market and say, well, what is the actual customer using the most, right? So it's a lot
Right.
more fun.
So beyond the accidental sharing of private information to the world, what are
Yeah.
some of the other security issues that you might run into?
Well, I mean, basically, proprietary information is probably the number one thing that we talk about. As far as, like, because these things are in the cloud, they usually don't touch on your own network, right? But it is possible that you could let them into a network that you didn't want to let them into, right? So it's not just about information; it's also about your systems, right? So you want to make sure that you protect your systems as well, and that you don't hook these things up to something and let it control something that you didn't want to, because basically you've now given it control over the system. You want to make sure that you are, again, gatekeeping that or securing it so that you're not giving away the store, right?
Right. Yes. So I have a very basic understanding of, of this level of technology, but I remember when it was just from websites, it was like get and put, right? Like you're just sending and
Yeah.
receiving, and a lot of times you're just sending information from the app or whatever it was,
Yeah.
sending the information one way. But then APIs came out, right? Now we can send information back and forth. This was many years ago, right? And so now we run the risk of exposing our APIs. And if we do that, people could be sending and receiving information to whatever, like you said, whatever system they're accessing.
Yeah.
And
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 there's
that can be.
stories about that, obviously. There's I haven't actually had it happen, or know anybody that it happened to, but now with if you so just for instance, right, if you gave access, or if you set up AI tool, and you gave it the ability to call somebody and use a voice, which you can do now, right? And
Yeah,
you basically made a clone of yourself or your voice, and just
an
all of a
avatar.
sudden you're giving it access, an avatar, right? And then you assign it, you assign it to do a task. It's going to do whatever it needs to do that task. So it could call your bank, and it could say, yes, I'm David Grubb, hey, I need to move this money, and I don't know. You just got to be careful what you set it up to do. Again, that never happened to me, but there are stories that type of thing has happened. And it will lie, it will cheat, it will do whatever it wants. It doesn't know the term. So if you set it up to do that, you're the one that it created the monster, right?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So what? So it's kind of flattened. Same thing in my industry with just building websites is what you're doing with the app development with your team, but uh, now people can build their own apps, and people that have
Hmm.
never built apps before can build their own apps. So business owners
Yeah.
can start being more efficient in their running their own business. So if you had some advice to give these business owners that are developing their own apps,
Yeah.
uh, what advice would you give?
Well, I think, just like anything that we do, the first thing you want to do is outline where you're going. And a lot of times I've seen people try to build their own apps, and they get lost, right? Because they don't do that for a living. So they end up they end up not being very organized, right? So the first thing to do, just like any project, is outline what what your goal is, and then back down from there and say, if this is my goal, what do I want to accomplish, and then build out what functions does this have to have, right? And then
Mhm.
the next thing is sometimes things can become more costly. Like I was telling you, it could be thousands and thousands of dollars for hosting if you don't do it the right way. So, and eventually, as everybody is talking about right now, tokens are going to go up in price because they're trying to get us, right? Like, right now
Yeah.
it's almost free, so let's just do all this stuff. We get all addicted to it, and then it's like, okay, now you're paying, $20 an hour for AI coding. All of a sudden, and it's going up to 100, and then before you know it, it's 150 an hour. And when are they going to stop? Because they've let people go. They tried to code everything themselves. They don't have coders on their team anymore, and they got you, right?
Yeah. So,
But
well,
that's kind
yeah,
of the
one of my
that's kind of the future. So what you want to do is you want to basically, optimize your tasks and make sure that you're going to build it for the lowest cost. And that's kind of what we do as a company too. We make sure we do things the right way.
we talked about we were talking about scope creep, and so what you're saying is, get and Stephen Covey. This is a Stephen Covey. You begin with the end in mind, right? So if you have a mission,
Right.
you have a
Echo.
goal, and that's what
Yeah.
you're gonna
Yeah.
build your app, and then you're gonna this is what you're gonna. But then even within that, as you're building it, you got to remember, hey, this is the mission. You got to remind yourself, and then don't go off on all these
Yep.
tangents and build all these other things. And in the
Yep.
end, you could have tech debt where you have more to maintain than what you really need to maintain, cost wise, or
Right.
so that's a huge pitfall. Multiple
Yep.
pitfalls there, like, not making a goal and then not pursuing the goal or keeping the goal in mind as you build. So I believe that's some really
Yeah.
great advice.
Yep. And you want to make
So
sure that, a lot of the applications that companies are trying to build, they'll hook them up to SendGrid, right? Which for sending email or whatever, they'll hook them up to Twilio, send SMS messages. You want to make sure you're compliant. You don't want to get a $500,000 fine for calling the wrong people at the wrong time or texting the the DNC. So you want to make sure you're compliant. You want to make sure that you don't let this um, all of a sudden call a million people and you're paying a couple cents a call. You want to make sure that, hey, overnight I spent $10,000 because I built this system and told it to go ahead and call everybody it could possibly find. So you want to put guardrails on that too, right? You want to build things that aren't going to end up, costing a lot more than you thought they were, and so you want to make sure you have reporting. And a lot of times, what we build first is where we'll build the reporting. So we'll build an admin tool into things so that, for instance, we built a software once for a customer and they were giving it away, and it ended up costing them, $30,000 their first month because they didn't realize that they're giving away all this video space, right? And they had to pay for it. This is CNBC, but they were giving away all this free space, and for them, maybe 30,000 is not a lot of money, but the creep of that was huge in relation to what we thought we were building, right? Because we thought, well,
right.
we're going to give this away; it's not going to cost anything, but we allowed them to store video and to upload it and to watch it and to so their data bandwidth usage, their storage usage, everything went through the roof. And this is a little while ago. Now it costs a lot less, but you got to be careful of those things. Make sure you're doing it the right way, and you're not gonna screw yourself one day.
Oh my goodness. So do you have some more projects that you would like to see your team do and build? Can you talk about any of your
Yeah,
plans or future
definitely,
projects?
definitely. So one of my biggest things is to give back, and we built the COVID testing system, during the COVID days, and it's was one of the fastest, or was the fastest testing system in America. We tested, I think, about 300 people per line per hour. If they were set up right, especially in the airports, right? We could test a lot of people quickly, and I'd like to see that um, be reused. We built it, and there's a lot of places in the world that need to test for diseases. And we've already got it. It's already set up. It's fast, it's secure, it's HIPAA compliant, everything you need it to be, and uh,
Yes.
it's it's ready to be used. So I think that could help save a lot of lives, and I'd like to see that get out there to
Absolutely.
the right people.
That's awesome. Well, Brian, I don't have any other questions for the show. I really enjoyed this conversation because you were able to give us a very simple breakdown of how to design and build an app and stay on track and be safe and secure with that process. So I think that was very, very important for our audience, and I love what you're doing and giving back. And I super enjoyed having you on the show and talking about these things. Anything you want to add before
Appreciate
before we?
it. No, I love talking to you as always, and we're always doing new things. So maybe we could come on again and do this again, and I'll show you some of the other stuff we're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you for being on the show, Brian, and we'll catch up very soon. Thanks for watching, guys.